Welcome to Pegwarmers, I'm Kevin and I'm here to talk about toys. Today, I'm giving you some tips for displaying vehicles hanging from the ceiling. This is sort of a follow-up to a video I recently released about Star Wars ships. If you're like me and collect action figures, you probably have a handful of flying vehicles, or maybe even action figures you'd like to display hanging from the ceiling. In my guide to displaying action figure vehicles, I have three main topics: how to pick a good location, how to create an anchor point, and how to suspend them. Number 1, location. If you plan to hang a jet or spaceship from your ceiling, think about where a good location might be for the vehicle. You probably don't want to hang a vehicle right under a recessed light or near where a door swings. You also probably want to make sure it's not in a main route you walk through the room. My friend Tony from RetroCon has several small vehicles like jetpacks and helicopters hanging above an end table at his house. This makes a great space because the end table makes it impossible for people to walk into the spaceships or under the spaceships. I'm leaving gaps between suspended vehicles in my basement to allow people to walk between the ships, basically at the places where there are already walkways. Number 2, anchor points. There are lots of different ways to anchor a vehicle to the ceiling. And what you use might depend on what your ceiling's made from. Some common ceilings are drywall, plaster, drop ceilings, or wooden beams. Most homes have drywall or plaster ceilings. Plaster is an older material. It's harder and more brittle than drywall. With either of these materials, or wood beams, you could twist some sort of hook into the surface. Pre-drilling a hole just a little smaller than the hook's threads will make it easier to twist the hook in. You could use cup hooks, screw eyes, or something a little different. I've chosen to use Q hooks. These are hooks with a little clip like a carabiner to help secure the vehicles. Wood beams are solid, and plaster usually has wooden lath strips behind it for the threads of the hook to bite into. If you're hanging a very heavy ship from a drywall ceiling, you might want to drill for a plastic anchor, then thread the hook into the anchor. Anchors expand on the other side of the ceiling as you turn the threads into them. This creates a strong hole that should not slip out. If you have a drop ceiling, which means you have ceiling tiles, you could always loop something around the frame pieces. The frame members that hold up the ceiling tiles are very strong. Number 3, suspension. As a kid, I always used fishing line if I wanted to make a toy look like it was flying. It's strong, thin, clear, and also kind of hard to tie in knots. Fishing line looks good, and you know it's strong because it comes in ratings like 15 pounds. Again, referencing my friend Tony from RetroCon, when I first saw his display over the end table, he told me that he often used clear twist ties that were used to hold Transformers in their packages. When I started hanging my ships, I bought a spool of similar clear twist tie material from Amazon. This allows me to cut the material to length to suit the job just like fishing line, but it's really easy to shape and twist and wrap around itself or the ship to create a stable suspension system. I like to try and find the center of gravity of the ship. Does it lean forward, backwards, or balance? This helps me decide how many places I want to attach the ship to the anchor point on the ceiling. For example, a standard TIE fighter only needs 2 points, but an X-Wing with a long nose needs a third point to keep it from dipping down. I try to only attach the twist ties to a very secure part of the ship, never to a point that might warp or disconnect later. I try to twist and loop the twist ties to make them very secure. I also look at how low I want the ship to hang. Depending on your display location, it might hang low over a diorama or hug the ceiling to leave clearance for people to walk underneath of it. This stage can be fiddly, but you can always snip the ties and retwist them for a better balance or height. So what do you need to do all this? A vehicle or two that you want to hang up for display, a good location that's out of the way, a solid anchor point, which requires some sort of a hook, a pencil to mark the spot, and a drill to make pilot holes might also be helpful. You need fishing line or twist tie material to create a suspension rig. A stepladder might also be helpful, depending on your height or the height of your ceilings. Also, a little patience is very helpful. If you end up displaying some flying figures or vehicles from your ceilings, tag me in a photo on Instagram or X so I can see your displays. If this video was helpful, give it a like, and thanks for hanging on the peg with me.